I welcome Sirisha for this podcast. This is a kind of a podcast where I was always waiting to do because I booked a slot like very early, but she didn't reply back. And now we have got the chance to do the podcast with her so that we can demystify actually what's that actual thrill of doing 365 days of data science, because she was consistently posting something or the other in LinkedIn. And I was like, damn, I need to do a podcast with her. So here is my chance to get the gyan from Sirisha, and also to just share the gyan to you all folks so that you guys get motivated and do some masters in some good university, and also take that motivation of being dedicated for a long run. So thank you, Sirisha, for giving me this podcast. It means a lot for me because I've never been that dedicated in my life.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here, Vishwas. Like, this is a great pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's all your hard work and it's all your dedication that has really motivated me to do this podcast. Let's just start with your academic journey, because most of the time when we are in 15 and 20 years old, we'll have that abstract dream of becoming the next Bill Gates, Elon Musk, or like any person, man. Like we just have that abstract dream of like everybody. I think probably everybody in our lifetime at least would have thought like I should be the next Sachin Tendulkar or something. Like
Yeah.
we all had that abstract dream. But like, what was your dream when you were actually completing your academics as a bachelor's, and also your master's journey is something which is more unique also. So you can talk a lot about your academic journey so that people will get to know how important is academics, and also how to not give too much into academics and just build ourselves as a professional. So it's over to you, Sirisha.
So my journey, I think, is kind of it was not a straight path. It went like in different curves to be here right now. So I never thought I would be a software engineer. Like I never thought I liked C, C++ or any programming language. I was very interested in electronics. Like I think during my undergrad, like even before that, in my 11th and 12th, I was very interested in physics and chemistry. Like I really liked electronics from that point in time. And then I studied electronics and communication engineering. And I think during my undergrad, I spent most of the time in either robotics lab or electronics lab. You would see me in both of those places all the time. And I think like when I was so motivated that I would be a scientist in ISRO. Like that was my dream back then. Like, I wanted to work in space and build products that help everyone. So, and what changed? Like, in my I think third year, we had this subject called neural networks, and that was back in like 2014. So that wherein AI and ML were not like in this space. Like it was all like a like never know if anything would work. Like that time we didn't have very fast processors. Like it was all like the initial part of AI and ML that time. And that course was really great. Like people were saying about brain, and it was all like, is it really possible? Can you really understand how you think, like how neurons work in your brain? It was really amazing. Like I think I liked that subject a lot. And I was asking my professors about it, like what's the future? Like can I really have a future in AI and ML? Like is it really possible? And they were like, it's all in its infancy. Like it's just budding right now. So this would be a good career path if you're really interested in it, is what my professors have told me in college. And then I was like, I was not a very good developer back then. I know only controller coding. If you think about 8051 microcontrollers or microprocessors, I only knew that. I wasn't even like, I think I didn't even like C and C++ back then, like when I was studying. And then I started to kind of develop my interest in software. Like I took up Java programming and kind of like wrote my own projects, like very small projects, like to just develop my interest. And when I thought about it, I thought like, let me not go for the core companies and go for the software side companies, because I'm not a computer science graduate. So it would make more sense to kind of gain industry experience and see if that is what I like a lot, and then pursue masters. Like that was my goal back then. Like, and then during my journey, like I worked for 3 years, like in an MNC, and during that time, I developed a lot of interest. Like basically, I liked software development life cycle, how you start from gathering requirements to designing a software, building the software. It was all very new because what I knew from electronics was to kind of write a lot about how signal processing works, but this is entirely new. Like I really liked it. And then during my job, I used to have an interest in AI and ML. So since that was the main reason for all this, I started to take up some courses like in Coursera. I love the Andrew Ng's course. Like, he is like the main motivation for me. The course was like amazing, even though it is in a different programming language, not like the most recent one. I really like the way he explains the concepts. Like, I took that up, and then I started applying for my master's. Like it was a different experience. Like my parents never thought I would kind of be interested to go out of India and kind of pursue masters. So a lot went to kind of make them understand this is my passion. I want to do this. I want to be this. And then I kind of applied to the universities, and I chose like the university wherein I really liked the way like the I kind of picked based on what I like about a professor, like about the professors in the university. Like I watched their TED Talks, I read their papers back then, and I was really interested in it. And then I chose one of the universities, and fortunately I got into it. Like my main motivation behind masters was that I wanted to know about the black box inside ML. Like I didn't want to know about the libraries or any coding aspects of it, but I wanted to know the theoretical concepts behind it. So I think I took up a lot of probability courses, like a lot of difficult courses, which no one would explain me actually. Because if you Google any about libraries, you would get a lot of information. But to know like the black box behind what is going on, I wanted to take up those subjects and kind of work on them. And that is how that I got my specialization in computational intelligence. And then I felt like I worked as an intern. I took up a couple of internships in my journey. Like I was working as an application development intern during my masters. I was a machine learning intern after that. And after that I was like, okay, I think I know quite a bit of ML, but I wanted to gain more experience in software development. And then I became a SDE in Amazon right now.
That makes a lot and lot of stories, man. Because like when you think of getting inside masters, it's a different story because in India the typical structure for any man is like do some work, like after graduation do some work, थोड़ा सा पैशन बच गया तो लाइक जाओ, लाइक यूएस जाओ और कुछ तो करो, लाइक अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट शादी करो, उसके बाद बच्चा हो जाएगा, उसके 3 साल बाद एक और बच्चा हो जाएगा, और उन लोगों का स्कूल और ये सब देखने के बाद हम लोग भी मर जाते हैं, लाइक दैट्स द ओनली सिनेरियो that we can find, and I think your mom and dad might have not agreed in the initial stages. I think you have convinced them a very, very well way,
Actually, they are kind of very, very progressive. Like my mom was even for my consistency, you say a lot about my consistency, right? So my mom and dad my mom used to tell me, my mother tongue is Telugu. So there was a poem in Telugu which I used to learn in like fourth
you
grade.
can say that,
And
you
she
can
was,
say that.
I don't remember the poem, but I remember the summary of it. So she used to tell me like there are three kinds of people in this world. Like the first person, like first kind of people, they don't even start anything like anything to learn because they're very lazy to start anything. And there are second kind of people who start something and they feel like during that time they feel, oh, I can't do it, or it's getting tough, or like just leave it in the middle. And the third kind of people who endure till the last. So my mom always made me to motivated me to be at the third kind of person. She never wanted me to be start something and leave anything in the middle. She always motivated me to be the best in whatever I do. I think a lot of my motivation and consistency comes from both of them. They're very progressive and they always push me, even though I say that okay, I is it my thing or something, they push me a lot, like saying that you can do it, like just go for it.
Yeah, that's fair. But I want to ask you this one question exclusively. What is consistency according to you? Because 365 days, 365 posts, saying day 1 to day 366. It's a whole new journey, because I started off with, because of your motivation, I started off with 100 days of Azure. Trust
Mhm.
me, I could only do like 22, 23 days of post. I think probably I skipped somehow in the middle because of I need to write my papers, I need to study for the other exams also. So,
Yeah.
like, I just want to ask you, what's the definition of commitment according to you?
My usually I have a goal, like an end goal in the mind, like that motivates me every day. Like basically, if I'm consistent, I'm very passionate about it. But if I'm not, like that tells that only it's always there. Like, why am I doing it? That is the question I ask. If I feel like today I think I'm too lazy to do it, I would ask, what is your goal? Like, why you do even, why did you even start this? Like, you had something, some end goal in the mind, right? And one day is a lot. Like, time once gone is gone forever. So I think like time is so precious. And I feel like even if you're very lazy, or like if I feel like I can't do it, I just do it like 5 to 10 minutes. I don't force myself a lot, like, but I make sure I do it, like, yeah.
But like, can you talk a little bit on your master's journey? Because like, more of the masters, when we talk, right, it only pops up like GRE or IELTS, TOEFL or something like that. Because people, there is something beyond GRE and IELTS, man. You need to be that new version. You need to be that asset for that university. It's not
Yeah.
like you have 24 backlogs. I have seen an interview of a guy who had 24 backlogs, but yet went to the one of the best universities. And like, he had very less score in GRE, I think 290 or something. I don't remember about it. But like, you have to be that asset for that university. Like, I just want to ask you this one question. Like, what was your GRE, IELTS, or TOEFL or anything? Like, do you really think so that it can be a form factor of like luck to you in the future? I was like, what is it all about to you? Like, what was your master's journey all about? Like, exclusively master's journey.
Yeah. So I think the
Also,
purpose
and
is
also, how much did you score? Like, it really matters to them.
my GRE score.
Yeah, and GRE, IELTS, and things like that.
I think I don't. Okay, let me try. I think for masters, I would say the purpose, like why power is very important to me. Because it's a lot of money. Like, it's not like easy, right? Like, to have that much education loan and kind of come out like and do masters. Like, you need to know, you have to be very determined. Like, why did you want to come to masters? Like, is it really important, or does it match your end goal, or like that was very important to me. I thought it would help me in future, and that is why I think even my letter of recommendations, or like whatever, the statement of purpose, sorry, it said a lot about why I wanted to do masters. Like, I think that has a lot of power. Basically every institution wants to know why you want to do it. Like, TOEFL, GRE are a part of your application, but I don't think they are the whole application. Like, most of the thing is your purpose. Like, why do you want to come here, do your masters, gain something, gain a knowledge, and work, like wherever you want to work. And that is one thing. And GRE and TOEFL, I think GRE and TOEFL are like a lot interesting. Like, to be very frank, like it will help you to understand a lot, like for the communication or math. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's a test or something. It's just exploring new things. Like, if you learn English vocab, it will anyways be useful to you. It's not something that you're learning just for it, right? And I think my GRE score was around 318, and a TOEFL, I think 109 or 112. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what was the cultural shock when you came in for the masters? Like, you were working in an MNC in India, and also, moreover, like, what happens, because you meet a lot of people with less amount of passion. There are people who come inside McKinsey because they have no reason for it, because they think that it's like after MBA or your any business degree or some degree, it's like a PhD getting inside that institution. Like, I don't call any company as a company now, because they are all public. So it's basically an institution now. So what's your view and the cultural shock that you had? when you just entered the US? Like it's a whole new world to you. All of the sudden, like you were introduced to some new type of people, new mindsets. Like what was the cultural shock that you faced during the preparation for the masters also, and also after coming for US for masters?
Actually speaking, I had a great zeal. Okay, I had just the goal that I have to go to masters and study. That was the only thing in my mind. Like I did not care anything at that point in time a lot. Like I had to study. I had to like understand about computer science because I was very interested in it. And algorithms, data structures were all very new. Like you they never teach you with that in electronics, right? You had a whole different subject. So I think the cultural shock was like it was there. I think I wouldn't say it wasn't there because it's a lot. It's not like India. I'm the only child to my parents, so I'm brought up very with so much of pampering. But it's not like that when you're left alone in US, right? So it's kind of a whole of a different world. And what motivated me every time was that it's my passion. Like I came and no one asked me. My parents didn't tell go do masters. It was my choice and. I think a lot for a lot of times that motivation will help you a lot. Like when you see people with lesser passion, I wouldn't be like distracted with it because I know my road. I wouldn't travel in another road and see what they're doing to achieve my goal. Right? I was very focused. I think during that point in time, only thing was for me to learn a lot and be curious, like explore everything. And I think that helped me out to get my research assistant job as well, like in my second semester, like, and I really enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, like, everybody wants to start with this data science and journey because it's the buzzword today. Because everybody talks about database, data lakes, or data warehouse, or something or other. As everybody knows what is TensorFlow. At least engineers these days know what is TensorFlow because I've done a lot of webinars on TensorFlow, and my college people know TensorFlow because I do webinars. Oh, Vipas does webinar, right? Oh, this guy does webinar, right? I have even done like two webinar, not webinars actually, in-person workshops, like code the paper. Like on spot, we used to code the paper. Like I used to say the one participant to come out with good paper, and we used to summarize it and code it. That's how we always used to enjoy that process of learning, because everybody wants to start that. I know from the day one you started off with the basics, and yeah, I've seen that post, and it's really very intuitive for me, because when I started learning sklearn, I started with the documentation, and that's the biggest fault that I did, because it's so huge. I can't
Yeah.
really read that. Like I just want you to give me that tip, or else to all the listeners, like where to start and how to start, not just the 365 days of data science journey, but the beginning of that learning, like for the data science. And we'll go back to that interview process later, but like for the data science hustle, what is that element that is required from every person?
I think beyond like looking at libraries to code, I would suggest to do things from scratch, like consider logistic like regression, k-means. First, if you go to the library and first and give it input and output and ask the model to train, you're not really you would learn how to use it. But if someone asks you, can you tune this? Can you tune this model to increase my efficiency or increase performance? Will you be able to do it? Like that is the question that you need to answer, right? Like, so what I would suggest for everyone is start very slow. Like don't think that I'm gonna be a machine learning engineer in like 4 months or in like let this be a usual journey, like you're learning one algorithm at a time, but learn it from scratch. Like do it. I used to take a pen and paper and used to write, literally do math behind it to understand what's going on there before even writing a Python code, actually. So what I would suggest is get into the basics first. Usually it's not suggested, but for me it helps a lot. Like if I don't understand things fully, I can't implement anything. So if you really want to learn and kind of develop products that help people, I would suggest do things from scratch, understand what's going on, and then kind of learn libraries. That would make more sense. So that is how I would start it. Like if college, if you have professors that are teaching you, like they would teach you the theoretical concepts. So go home, I would say, like refresh the concept, right? Like do a small project, and I would say post it in LinkedIn and ask people for suggestions. Like LinkedIn is a really great platform where you could build networking by really sharing what you have learned. Like, you know, this is my way of thinking, but I'm open to people who could help. And engineers, as you all might know, love to help people. Like if they see something that can be improved, they would really tell you, like, you know, you could do it this way or the other way. That's a good way that you could network, and you could also learn a lot. So I would suggest that, you know, just if professor is teaching you good enough, you have got all that sorted out, come home, or like whenever you have some time, refresh the concept, do a very small project. It need not be like, you know, big project and everything. Pick a small Kaggle data set, do some like a single simple notebook, and kind of ask people for help. Like, you know, I would say that, you know, normally we think that okay, we did it and we are the gems, like, you know, we know everything in that. It might not be the case all the time, right? So I would suggest, like, you know, that would give you a lot of connections, and people, when they see you, that you are kind of putting in effort, they're always helping, and that is for sure. So that is how I would start it and would recommend anyone.
Yeah, don't go behind any like intuitive libraries. Like, TensorFlow is very intuitive, but can you really complete the documentation within a day? It's impossible. So just start with that baby steps of understanding what is a NumPy array and how to read an image, and write a NumPy array and plot it using the plt.imshow. It's going to give you that happiness, because that's where that baby little baby steps, right? When you do it in your undergrad, and like first day of your undergrad, I'm saying you, if any engineer who is in the first day of engineering listens to this podcast, I just want you to just do this simple step. Like
Yeah.
she said, like starts from the very basic of it, then you will get to know what's the thrill of building it. Yeah, like you have told about everything, but did it really help you get into the research fellowships, or else any internships? Like, you did a challenge of 365 days. Like, did it really help you to get inside some internships, some sort of an, were there any pros and the cons of doing this 365 days of challenge? Because I want people to get to know that not every time that you start, like, let it be like 100 days of Azure. Like, you can't be like, after the 20th day of that 100 days of Azure, I should be the CEO of Microsoft. It's stupidity, man. Like, I just want you to give that actual thrill of working in those kind of challenges, and also the pros and the cons of it, because people might think like, it should be like six pack in 6 days. It's impossible. It's like years of work, years of training, then you actually chisel up muscle maturity and things like that. Like, did it really help you get the internship in like very early stages, or how was it helpful for you, the challenge
Okay.
which you took?
Yeah, let's see. I think I didn't have any cons with it. Really didn't have any cons. Like all I had was pros, and even like when I started it in last Jan, so even before that, I think I was already doing my internship at Nokia as a machine learning intern, and I also had a job at Amazon, like because I got it way earlier than my graduation. So, but what I would say is that I did not kind of started to get anything out of it. Like basically, I started it because I was writing my New Year resolutions because that was Jan 1st, and I was kind of planning out my year. And I started out with Java. Like my first job was a Java developer, and my work that time was in Python, and I did not have like superb experience in Python, and I felt like, you know, I need to catch up a little bit on that. And since I told you, right, like I took up all the theoretical concepts during my masters, I wanted to kind of have some application based knowledge, like using a lot of libraries and learning with Kaggle datasets and everything. So I had those two as my goals. And on that day, when I was scrolling over LinkedIn, I saw this post saying that, you know, take up this daily coding challenge, which in which you code for 366 days and post it on LinkedIn. It's like, yeah, if I could do it, it makes me to tick off those two goals and also makes me accountable, right? When you're accountable, you feel like, oh, I have to do this. Like if you are not accountable with anything, like sometimes you don't get the motivation. And I think that is how I started out. And with respect to basically, if you start, you shouldn't expect anything. I would say for sure, because if you expect, right, sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not, and you would get disappointed. So what I would suggest is, it will build up a lot of networking. Like, people would read your post, they would think that it's either helpful or they'll give you constructive criticism, and it's good. Like, you're getting a lot of help without even asking, like with just posting. If you see my posts, right, there'll be a lot of suggestions under the comments, and that, I think I learned a lot from it. So I would say, don't expect a job out of it. That doesn't make sense, but just code, learn a lot, and I think that is more important.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know,
Yeah.
लोगों, ये सब अमीरों का बात है because she has really worked really hard. She is actually an अमीर. हमारी जैसे गरीबों का बात नहीं होता है ऐसा. Like we'll start with like you will start with the Python and things like that. Like ये तो अमीरों का बात है. Don't worry about it. Like,
No,
but she
what
actually
I
gave a valid point because like you should not expect anything because when you start expecting, right, when you don't get it, you feel like this is not working out for me, and you
yeah,
suddenly
exactly.
stop it, and probably God might have a different plan for you. Like probably it might help you in your GRE. Like you're being so consistent, man. Like you can put it in your SOP and you can say that, hey, I've done this challenge, and probably she can go to her PhD right now. I think I'm motivating her to go for a PhD right now. I hope she goes for a PhD right now. Like anything can happen because this is how you build yourself. You have to build yourself as an overall and new packager every day. And I think probably she gave a very good advice for the lifetime of any data science enthusiast. Trust me, she has given a lot. हमारे जैसे
I
गरीबों के
wouldn't
लिए भी होता है, like, yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's the best advice, but if I have to go back and tell myself, I have been in the same situation where, oh, I have to get this job or I have to get this interview done. But I did not think about, like, why I wanted to do this. Like, but this challenge, I think it helped me as a person as well, like evolve as a person, to not think about too much, like too much pressure on myself. I did not really give any pressure on myself. I'm like, if you want to do it, do it. That was my only goal. So yeah.
Remember the Cat King wala Cat King, right? Have you seen the Cat King? Sumit Gupta sir, Rahul sir,
uh,
actually.
okay, I think I have not
Okay, he
seen
always say this garibo bar के आते हैं bar के आते हैं.
it.
Like I love to explore people. That's where I started off with the podcast. Like I hopefully I do a podcast with him as soon as possible. He has not replied to any of my text messages, comments in his videos or things like that. He was in GE, which is one of
Mhm.
the best companies, and he was also in SPJ in Bombay. I think you should be knowing if you were an aspirant of the MBA. Like
Okay.
I do a lot of game theory and coding on that, so that's where I know a little bit on MBA, Narsi Munji, all these colleges and all. I actually explore a lot. I wanted to explore more of the people. That's where I started off with this podcast and things like that. Every time when he talks about it, he literally talks like you. Like he gives a proper suggestion because he has put that much amount of dedication in his life and he has achieved something in his life. So yeah, like let's just move on to the Gariboka topic, interview process.
Interview process. Okay.
Yeah, like you cracked Amazon, right? Because SD1 position is not such an easy one to crack, or SD2 position is also not very easy to crack. Like, what was your preparation when you were about to crack an interview, like anything, like internship and also an interview? Like, how to crack it? Like, how to connect with people, ask for a reference, like how to connect with people, go on and get that right job which is suitable for you, things like that. You can
Okay.
you can comment about it.
Okay. So okay. I'm not very specific to Amazon, but as a whole, during my interview, like preparation or anything, I believed in like three things, like which I think I always believe. Like I believe in like hard work. Like you have to put in a lot of hard work for anything. Honesty. Honesty is very important because you can't be untruthful and get a job. Like that doesn't make sense. And self confidence. Like you need to be confident about yourself, right? So I kind of believed these three things in any interview. And hard work, it was not like just preparing like doing a bunch of lead code problems or like doing anything like that, but I had a plan. Like I organized like what I wanted to do, like why am I doing it, like basically if I have to get a job in a company, what is the company needing from my side, like how can I help. And that is what they want, right? They're hiring you because they want some help. So I kind of planned it out a little bit, like started organizing. And the same consistency, if I think that okay, I have to learn this concept and do some problems, I would stick on to that schedule. Like that is when your consistency and hard work comes in. And um, uh, and that is how I started out. Like I planned, I organized, I put in work. Those are the first three things. And when it came to the interview, honesty and self confidence come a lot. Honesty, because you need to be very honest with your interviewer. I'm saying that because your job takes up half of your life. And if you're not happy with it, it doesn't really make any sense. You shouldn't be like every morning, oh my God, I have to do this job. It shouldn't be like that, right? You have to be really happy and enjoyable working in that environment. So that is important. And self confidence, because you need to put out that to tell them that I can do this, you can trust me on my work, like I can do this. That is very important. And when it comes to reference, that is what I would say. When you're preparing for interview, connect with a lot of people, post it on LinkedIn, ask suggestions like can I do this in a different way that improves performance, time complexity, and stuff like that. And that would help you a lot actually.
Sirisha, thank you so much for this wonderful podcast because like I really wanted to convey a lot on 365 days of challenge that you took, but trust me, it's all about that truth that you have in yourself. Like I need to be honest to that effort that I'm putting. Like yesterday's effort should not be wasted for today's laziness. That's what it's all about, right? Thank you so much, Sirisha, for giving me this wonderful podcast. And it was a motivating session and also a refreshing for me because night long of working and things like that, and I felt really motivated because of doing this podcast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure being here.